clear. San and Mayank have contextualized the debate. One, it appears to me San says that rationalization happened because of practical consideration or historical consciousness will be confined to reading textbooks or not. So now Mayank says there is a political motive behind this deletion or rationalization, whatever terms he used. So the two questions arise. One, whether this rationalization of the history textbooks by the current regime is a purely academic exercise or a political exercise. I think with this question, we will go and listen to our esteemed speaker, Prof. Kharavela, Mahanti, and thereafter happy that the two students, volunteers have contextualized and sharpened the edge of the debate, and now it's time to listen to our esteemed speaker. I request Prof. Mahanti to tell you what happened.
Esteemed Mr. President, Anjum there, Professor Bharadwaj there, and the citizens of the 21st century. It's a pleasure to be in the company of such wonderful people here, particularly when the topic for discussion is of a huge contemporary relevance. The topic has already been contextualized by Professor Kar and this gentleman here and there, and it needs, a deep insight into what we are trying to say. I would personally believe, before coming to the theme of our discussion, I would personally believe that nation states have always been watchful of having their official historical narratives. History has been censored, has been swindled, has been repackaged to suit the needs of a certain political ideology predominant community by compromising on other psychological and educational functions. And it is because of this that I feel that 76 years after independence in India, we are still debating as to what should be the correct version of history. Because post-independence India, history was exploited in a manner in which we find that we were developing citizens who had a very wrong notion of what is the vulnerabilities involved in historical knowledge. And in that context, I would like to say, when we began, we were given facts. History was given to us as facts. And now that we are having new interpretations, we are clinging on to these interpretations as stunning facts. Given facts to us, eya history, eya poribo, bartaman jetra nua interpretation asuchi jaha asu taku ame claim karuchu kaiki these are all stunning facts which are coming to us, and that we should go through them and try to understand them. Now, as he pointed out and he pointed out, we would like to analyze as to what actually should be the structure of this discipline. Why do we need to study history? Should we study history from a point of view of educational perspective, or should it be on a disciplinary perspective or on a nationalist perspective? These are the issues actually, whether history should be studied from an educational perspective only, or from a disciplinary perspective, or from a nationalist perspective. And then we shall try to analyze how far deletion and rationalization, the controversy that has been raised here, is justified in this context. Now, we find, just as we study, when we study science, when we read science, we need to understand scientific methods. When we study language, we need to understand in building up our communicative and literary skills similarly. When we study history, it becomes imperative to understand the methodologies of history. And in this context, I would like to say the methodologies that we talk about here would depend upon the interpretations, various interpretations that we are talking about. Interpretations can change from time to time. Rewriting of history comes and interpretation changes from time to time. But facts remain the same. But facts remain the same. Interpretations would change. Gotiye source achi, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ source asile, nua source joda hela. Interpretation asila, interpretation badalila. Kintu fact would remain the same, as so many people say that facts and phenomenon remaining same. Interpretations can always vary, and that is the point of our discussion here. Interpretations को vary कला पड़कू. आमी ये तो delete करी दो तो he said deletion है ना. I don't agree with that actually. Deletions है ची. जो लेवल रे दरकार डिलीशंस हेछि जहाँ हेछि सेथिरे कोपरि भाबरे हाउ फार आमे याकु जस्ट रैशनलाइज करि परिबा ए डिलीशन जोगुडा का हेछि बोली दैट इज सो वेरी important. Now when I say this, I would like to say that if you study the reports of the British School Council, the reports of the German School Council, and also the reports from the American history point of view, American School Council, you will find that there have been constant changes in their interpretation of the history that they are teaching in their schools. But the fact is that facts being the same, as I said, interpretations always have varied. For example, in the United States of America, where there are 50 states, there are different governments heading different parts of the United States of America. There is a Democratic government there, there is a Republican government there, and each of these governments have their own history when they talk about the Civil War in the United States of America, issue of slavery in the United States of America, whereas Mississippi would be having an interpretation of slavery and the Civil War. Other states like, say, Oregon, or different other states like so many others, Alaska, Nebraska, Kansas, would be having different interpretations on what is the Civil War and what is the slavery issue. So, keeping the fact in context, interpretations have been changing, and that is how history needs to be presented to our people, so that they can have the luxury of intellectual openness in their textbooks, so that they can have enough space for creativity and dialogue. That is what we need for Indian students in our schools. And in this context, again, I would like to say, in case of France, when Charles de Gaulle came to power in France, he wanted to whitewash a very important aspect, delete a very important aspect of French history, when in his book he completely wanted to bleach his book white by whitewashing what we call the Battle of Waterloo. He did not want to have that in his book, and he did not print it in his book. Battle of Waterloo bisare konosi French loko janibe nahi, padibe nahi boli sei pari bhabare se tamu bahi tiyari kale. But to this day, for every Frenchman, the Battle of Waterloo is a household name, and the events remain as they are, and they know every bit of it. So you can only make different interpretations. You cannot just delete facts at random by completely trying to wash out certain facts which have been established facts. Now, in this context, again, it is so very important for us to understand that when we say this, I'll give you an example here where you find when Vyasa was writing the Mahabharata, he wrote from a point of view. Sarada Das ଯେତେବେଳେ ମହାଭାରତ ଲେଖିଲେ, ସିଏ ସେ ମହାଭାରତକୁ completely ଗୋଟେ ନୂଆ interpretation ଦେଲେ, but he did not say that a characters बिल्कुल exist କରୁନଥିଲେ ବୋଲି. Sarada Das gave and when you read Sarada Das's Mahabharata and when you read Vyasa's Mahabharata, you find there are huge differences. Chapters एते अधिक जनक पाखरे अछि, chapters एते कम जनक पाखरे अछि. गोटे से महाप्रस्थान उपाख्यान रे एते लेखिचंती व्यासदेव लेखिचंती, महाप्रस्थान विषय मात्र 2टा वर्ष व्यास लेखिचंती. But the fact is that interpretation vary करी fact रहिछि समान, जोटा हमें कहलु when you try to whitewash facts, it can never be a proper representation of historical facts, which is so very vital for us to understand here. And again, it is imperative for us to understand that when we are talking about the NCERT's workbooks, that where certain certain topics have been removed and certain basic ideas have been removed, you create what you call historic myopia, short-sightedness, जो जगह रे की गोटे comprehensive holistic development जहाँ हमें कहूँ सेटा उपरे stress करा जाई पारु नहीं, because history is a continuous process. History is a continuous process. Events move, but a chronology देखिए events गुड़ा को move करे. तो chronology की events move करे ची, ता भीतर यदि गोटा aspect को आपण बाहर कर देले ता छेडा हे जीव कोन बोले हिस्टोरिकल एमनेसिया गोटा पीरियड को कंप्लीटली हमें बंद कर देलु जो विषय हम जानिबा को चाहूनु बा अधिक जीवाकू चाहूना सो हिस्टोरिकल एमनेसिया क्रिएट कले हमें इग्नोरेंस को बढ़ावा दउछु in the sense that we are only choosing glorifying the past, living in the past. We are making a selective interpretation of history, selective choice of historical facts, and ताकू नहीं करी कि present to relevant करी कि सेथी की हमें present करूँ. So selective choosing of historical facts to justify the हमारा कौन होती, to justify the event political development, to justify करे अपने in the present context. When you make the selective choice of the past, that is not what you call an objective scientific analysis of history where truth is presented in its objective form. So eta koriba dara what are we trying to do, what are we trying to create actually? Now when we say, when you read jaha he cheez lekha jaiche from the Mughals to Maulana Azad, from Taj Mahal to Tipu Sultan, the slant is too very obvious for a person carrying a head over his shoulders not to see against whom it is aimed at. And we find here, we shall be coming to the and we find here when we talk about this, that the slant is so very, very obvious, when we talk about starting from the Mughals to the Maulana Azad, se jagare hame dekhuchu kon tale hochi boli we are forgetting, we are saying that the Muslims were descendants of the Mughals, whereas from 8th century, 9th century onwards, Islam had already come to India. Islam had already come to India as early as the 9th century. Kerala ko asthila, Tamil country ko asthila. Mughals came much later. When we say these facts, ame jale Mughal chronicles ko bahar karuchu, we are forgetting the fact throughout the tenure of the Mughals that foreign invasion hai nahi. There has never been a foreign invasion during the period of the Mughals. Number one. And that the concept of Sulhi Kul that Akbar was giving, peace be with all, the concept of the Din Ilahi, good religious unity, good economic bonding, the socio-economic relations develop Seita Jota Akbar ka time re develop karike asiti Mughals ka time re, that has not been, that gives us an insight that to whitewash the idea, again, apart from everything else, Indo-Islamic culture, Indo-Islamic art, can we just wish away by saying the nine relevance nine rationalize and experts so when these experts are being asked, the experts are saying how they have been deleted, we do not know. That is the answer they are giving. Experts how this has been done. Experts are saying we had not deleted these things, and how this has been deleted, we have no answer to that. That means something, if someone else would out a source control and that reminds me when we say that Abraham Lincoln once said that history writing is best left to the historians, because history historian craft से क्राफ्ट को बाहर करी जाएगी यदि इतिहास लिखिबे ताले से इतिहास का इतिहास बनाए that will be a परिराज्य कथमड़ा of fairy tale है कि बाहर को particularly when political agents are given the right to write history, what they would write is necessarily to satisfy their political bosses and to derive the spoils of office. So it is so very, very important for us to analyze these facts that in what context agents are. Like as we said, that this has been going on for almost a decade. This has been going on for almost a decade. Like we said, that the agents are all political parties political historical narrative but to the extent that is what creates a sense of suspicion in their minds, whether in the name of rationalization they are trying to build up a narrative, a false narrative, where wherein we find the knowledge that is trying to be perpetuated would ultimately lead to the creation of dancers and duffers who have a very myopic vision of history. Good example I am going there. On the one hand, you talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and on the other hand, you contradict yourself by saying that pluralism, empathy, inclusiveness, everything should be homogenized, everything so how do you adjust to this contradiction? How do you adjust to this contradiction when you say talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and at the same time pluralism, Bahulatavadi, the basic what you call Indic civilization of foundational structure, Indic civilization of foundational structure rests on certain civilizational values like pluralism, inclusiveness, empathy, compassion, all these ideas जो गुड़ा कभी completely whitewash हो जाऊँची जहाँ पे सिर्फ कौन सी mention ही हो नहीं mention ही नहीं बोले. How do you justify this contradiction? How do you rationalize this contradiction? जे एजा पहुँचती एजा पहुँची बोली. And when you write history, मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद को जितने बड़े आपण बाहर करी दो चुनी, can we ever forget the fact that Mahatma Gandhi the Sangre, the only two persons who stayed with Mahatma Gandhi till the very last and wanted to avoid partition were Maulana Abul Kalam Azad and Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. These were the two people who stood with Mahatma Gandhi, and tanko hame delete kori do bujhi, tanko then mention kori banai. Then how do you justify this? How do you say? So right, and then again kaha par me bahar korichu jete bade acts koriba pai chahile, delete koriba pai chahile, so tore kaha par acts padila ironically and interestingly enough on all those Islamic states in Afro-Asian countries. In all those Islamic states in Afro-Asian countries, so much so, Faiz Ahmad Faiz's poems which had been translated into English, they could have been deleted kar diya jayche. अन्य कथा तो छाड़ यहाँ से मेंशन कर जो जो बड़ा कुछ बड़ा कर, but what is still more preposterous is that industrial revolution में सिर्फ mention होना ही, industrial revolution में सिर्फ mention होना ही, cold war ऊपर mention ही नहीं, cold war ऊपर पढ़ा जाओ नहीं, वो थोड़ा क्लास में पढ़ेगी जो लेवल में पढ़ेगा कथा से लेवल क्लास ले पढ़े, when लोग पिलाटारे गोटे impressionable mind जितने बड़े था है, से पिलाटारे तो ग्रहण करी होगा से, ताकि के maturity develop करे, same stage जो इधर बाहर कर दे, cold war बाहर कर दिया उनका अपने माने, we still live under the shadow of the cold war. If cold war और प्रकृति का context में जारी हो, and what is the cold war में जारी हो, ताहले से पिला क्लास की वेल में पास करी जाएगी कि कौन, what would be his idea of international development, international growth पर हिचबरे, and what is worse, globalization रे की परिभाବରେ agriculture को affect करूची, poverty को affect करूची, those chapters have been deleted from the जो जहाँ हिचे भी कोई से कोई delete है नहीं बोली, but I would like to see को जगह रे पढ़ा हिची बोली, को क्लास रे पढ़ा जाउची बोली, को जगह को क्लास रे पढ़ले केते की आइडिया हबो, क्लास 6 रे पढ़ले केते की आइडिया हबो, क्लास 11 12 रे पढ़ले केते की आइडिया हबो, that is to be contextualized. deleted है नहीं ठीक अछि, किंतु गोटे क्लास 6 रे पिला जहाँ को एक्सेप्ट करिवो ता मुंडरे जेति की पॉसिबल सेटा गोटे क्लास 11 12 रे पिला पसिले मुंडरे कोन पॉसिबल, that needs to be contextualized and that needs to be rationalized जे काहे कीटा करा गला बोली, and सब how that एते coincidence केंति हे करिवो, एते coincidence केंति हे करिवो when you find that as someone pointed out rightly here that गोटे particular community को aim करि जिनसना करा जाउची जो थिले कि ए पूरी खबरे लाइक वी से that starting from Mughals to Maulana Azad, starting from Taj Mahal to Tipu Sultan, when we say that Taj Mahal tiyari hitla kon जो temple थिला kon थिला, and now someone is talking in Assam that Taj Mahal को demolish करि दियो बोली ता विरुद्ध किछि के स्वर भी मध्य उठुनांती, and again एक कथा एक जगह रे कहबा पहुंची, what is important, when you read facts of history you will find Aurangzeb had sent Rajputs to suppress the Marathas, and जितेबले ब्रिटिशर्स माने आसिले सेतेबले राजपूत्स माने जाय कि ब्रिटिशर्स मान को संगे अंडरस्टैंडिंग कले जे से माने एते दूर ऑप्रेस्ड हेतले बाय द मराठास that ब्रिटिशर्स मान संगे राजपूत माने जाई की अंडरस्टैंडिंग करी की जे मराठास मान को संगे विरोध रे करी की दैट इज हाउ दे ब्रॉट इन जो परिभाବରେ ସେମାନେ ଆସିଲେ करथले अगेन जेतेबेले औरंगजेब समय रे ऑर्डर देले पुरी मंदिर भंगा जाऊ बोली इट वाज ओनली औरंगजेब जनरल्स जो माने थिले जो माने कहिले कि औरंगजेब जनरल जो माने थिले हु सेड दैट मिछरे कहिले तांको पुरी मंदिर भंगा हे जाई छी किंतु दे न्यू दैट जो परि भाबरे हमको टैक्स आसुची जो परि विजिटर्स बना आसुची से टैक्स दैट इकोनॉमिक हमर ग्रोथ पाई हमर सस्टेनेंस पाई वी कैन नॉट ब्रेक दिस टेम्पल जो परि भाबरे एंड व्हाट इज इंपोर्टेंट मीर जाफर कथा कह जाउची सिराजुद्दौला कथा कह जाउची डू वी एवर एम्फसाइज अपॉन द फैक्ट दैट ब्रिटिशर्स मान का सागर 1757 रे रॉबर्ट क्लाइव को सागर नेगोशिएट को माने करले रायदुल्लभ कला अमिचंद कला एंड रायदुल्लभ अमिचंद एंड अदर मैन हाउ दे तीन जन जाको जाई करले जो तीनटा से जगत सेठ एमाने जाके नेगोशिएट करले सो ए फैक्टर्स गुडा को हमें केमती हाइड करि दोछु या फुल उछेई दे कि हमें सब बोले पोर्ट्रे करियो को चाहू दैट एक्स कम्युनिटी एमती से माने ए जो बिट्रेल रे इंसर होई जते बोले सो इन अ कंट्री व्हेन यू टॉक ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी व्हेन यू टॉक योरसेल्फ ऑफ बीइंग अ मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी how can you just wish away 15% of the country's population on the basis of religion? How can you just wish away 15% of the country's population on the basis of religion when you say these things, when you talk about these things that yet hame ei prabhavare apnu rationalize kariya ko chahu gote pila mundere burden dewa pai chahu e kotha dewa pai chahu but perceived history, legends and myths to perpetuate kariya pai university ro vice chancellors कहते that Arjuna's arrows were nuclear tipped and cow's milk has gold, Indian cow's milk has gold content. That is what is being propagated. So you find that we have reached an inflection point. We have reached an inflection point where the epistemic value of a discipline is under existential threat. In the name of trying to rationalize history, we are resorting to political chicanery. When history textbooks at the school level is being prepared by mediocres, irrational people, immature people who have no idea of history in the sense that jahan tame pahuncho tara corroborative evidence kon. What is your corroborative evidence? What is your source when you are talking about, instead of merely trying to propagate falsehoods of history kariki pass kari do chesta kale. So ei jo NCERT books ja heichi by deleting these chapters, what you are doing is removing texts from textbooks. You are removing texts from textbooks, and by removing chunks from these textbooks, the greatest harm that NCERT is doing is causing what you call education process को केते दूर hamper करूची. That is so very important for us to understand and appreciate. आमे गोटे याद रख by delete chunks गुडा को delete करके history आमे गोटे what you call epistemic fracture करूछु जो जगह रे कि हमरा discussion discourse और what you call constant आमे wound करूछु हमर educational system को जो जगह रे आमे discussion को बात दे दोछु and जहां कहलु ताको थोपी देलु कर दे के हेगला. So now you know actually जी जो कथा कहले तो experts माने एक कथा कहउचंती that आमे याको delete करि नथलु and in the same context आमे जो जानिबा को पाउनो actually who is responsible for doing what has been done, जो कथरा में that we are talking about. Now here we find that NCERT रो ए जो contextualize करिया पाई जो books कथा में कहउछु ताकू जदी प्रत्येकटा स्टेट के ऊपर भाबरे कहउछु because education is in the concurrent list. It is not necessary that जहां सेंटर कहबा कथा एक्सेप्ट कर दे पारी बोली. Just as Kerala जो कथा कला केरला जो कथा कला से माने कहउछ ना हम इम्प्लीमेंट करिबु नाही बोली सेमती ओडिसा रे मध्य ओडिसा रो मध्य जदी आमे एई परि भाषा को उठेई पारू स्टेट्स उठाती कि परि भाबरे ताले ए जिनस को हम ओडिसा को आनिबा नाही बोली द अदर डे आई वाज टॉकिंग टू सम ऑफ दोस बिग पीपल जो माने पॉजिटिव इन द पावर्स टू बी जो माने तयारी करूछथि कोर्स तयारी करूछथि से माने मध्य सजेशन देले दैट इन ओडिसा वी कैन अडॉप्ट द सेम प्रिंसिपल वेयर यू फाइंड दैट जो पोर्शन डिलीटेड है जो बड़ा एब्सोल्युटली नेसेसरी किंतु डिलीटेड है हमें ताको इंक्लूड करि पारिबु हम करिकुलम रे सो दैट गोटे कंटिन्यूटी इन स्टडीिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ हिस्ट्री व्हिच इज अ कांस्टेंट मार्च ऑफ टाइम जो रहता है वन लिंकिंग टू द अदर आपण पढ़े देले एंशिएंट पीरियड पढ़े देले मिडिएवल पीरियड रो हम जो कहू मिडिएवल पीरियड सपोज से पीरियड मोगल्स का पूरा पूरी बात दे देले तापर चली आसले ब्रिटिश को चली आसले जदी एई कथा हे थाए ताहले हमें जो कहू सब जिंस फॉरेनर्स ए आस्ते हमें ताको बात दा सो वन क्वेश्चन आई विल हैव टू पोज हियर जदी ए कथा हे छी बाबर ने के आस्ते वाटरमेलन को इंडिया रो बैन कर दियो ब्रिटिशर्स मन संगे आसला क्रिकेट को इंडिया रो बैन कर दियो व्हाई डोंट यू डू दैट Why don't you do that? That is so very important. So that is so very important. एई कथा जे आपण माने कहउचंती जहा कहउचंती जे ए हेची बोली ताले काहे कि तमे बैन करछन से शुरू करबो ताले एंड माने because what is sense होची majoritarianism जेतो जो जगह रे अछि must always remember 51% से पाखरे थिले 49% मध्ये पाखरे अछंती बोली एंड इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमको कहउची कोन इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कहउची द यूनिटी ऑफ इंडिया डिपेंड्स अपॉन फ्रेटर्निटी dignity and equal worth of every individual India रो varied history रे ता भितरे एते various ideas thoughts जोडा को रहिची different people जो परि भाबरे represented होचंती different people को जो परि भाबरे represented and presented होचंती that is the basis of the Indian constitution and like someone had pointed out that democracy is the essence of democracy and your Indian constitution रो foundation होची pluralism that is what we need to accept and जेतेबेले हम पिला मान को दोच पढिबा पे टेक्स्ट को we must give them the textbook as it is India रो socio political economic condition on सही परि भाबरे हम ताको प्रेजेंट करबो they must know the socio cultural diversities of India the tradition of descent in India एटा हेले ही पिला मान रे ई समय रो पढले गोटे cognitive development हो cognitive development हे कि catharsis गोटे हो what is the catharsis जो जगह से माने निके रियलाइज कर पारिबे काल भितरे की परि भाबरे ग्रोथ ता हेची cognitive development हेची जति हमें गोटे क्लोज्ड सर्किट भितरे ताको प्रेजेंट करि दो एतिकी तमे माने पढिबो या बियॉन्ड को तमे जीव नाही then you would find that like we said गोटे myopic version of history गोटे what you call a completely what a perversion जो मैं कहूँ तालिबानाइजेशन of history distortion of history perversion of history जो प्रभाव होची सही जिनसे हमें ताकू प्रेजेंट करिबो I think my words are very harsh someone might not accept it but I personally feel at that level जो दा होच बोले I feel as a student of history that is what is happening at this point of time so unless we present them conditions as they are by deleting portions which are not convenient for me by not teaching portions which are not convenient to me we are naturally creating a new generation which is groomed only in the idea of glorification of the past and in selecting those ideas of the past that suits him for the present political expediency by ame goda karuchu parivar dwara ame ki pari bhabare gote tiyari karuchu next generation that needs to be understood and pondered why I say this is because you know recent United Nations population development fund jota koiche apna mane samasthai janitbe and that is the Indian population in the age group of 7 to 34 is the largest, the fastest growing population in the world. And what kind of a generation are we building? Are we building up a ahistorical, unscientific, and what you call a generation that lacks objectivity and understanding? Apne kya mein build karibu na kore generation jota scientific analysis kariki, objectively kariki, jo kotha kochne rationalize kari paribo kemiti different viewpoints jodi taku present kara jibo different viewpoints ku se nabo different viewpoints ku se study karibo jemti ame kahile American schools re hochi different viewpoints ତାକୁ present କରାଯାଉଛି ପିଲାଟା ବାଛୁ let the child try to analyze and understand ଯେ କଣ କୁହାଯାଇଛି and ସିଏ କେମିତି ଚିନ୍ତା କରୁଛି ଯେ ହେଇଛି ବୋଲି that would only come କିନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟିଏ point of view present କରିକି ଆମେ କହିବୁ ଆମେ burden ବାହାର କରିଦେଉଛୁ କୋଉଠି overlook ହେଇଯାଇଛି oversight ହେଇଯାଇଛି rationalize କରୁଛି କୋଉଠି irrelevant ହେଇଯାଇଛି and experts ମାନେ ତିଆରି କରିଛନ୍ତି and ତାକୁ ତେଣୁ କରିକି ଆମେ ଥୋପି ଦେବୁ that would lead to disaster in future and that is what NCERT ଏବେ 10 ବର୍ଷ ହେଲା ଚାଲିଛି ଏ ପଦ୍ଧତି ପ୍ରୋସେସ ଚାଲିଛି actually and ଏବେ ଗୋଟେ ନିର୍ଣ୍ଣାୟକ ये पहुंचुची जो जगह रे की सेमाने करिके स्मॉल माइंड्स इम्प्रेशनेबल माइंड्स भितरे ए जिंस थपी करिके गोटे जनरेशन तयारी करियो चाहउछंती जोटा कि सेही आईडिया गोटे पर्टिकुलर आइडियोलॉजी को फॉलो करिके कि देन जाइके कोर्ट को जिबो बोले आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट आई हैव टू से it's been a wonderful session meeting you and if you have any questions at all you can ask Professor is there and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts.